So for this next video clip, I wanted to go over the muscles you're liable for, say, on the statue, meaning the little Mr. Man statue that we have, but you'd be obviously that I put the tags on, and it's but you'll see it on. There's pictures of it. You can get pictures offline of it, but again, basically it's like a living diagram of it with the same colors. So what I'm looking at though is in your lab manual from pages 116 over to 123. Okay, so if you notice on page 123, it gives you the list of muscles you're liable for the arm. For 116 is the muscles liable for the little Mr. Man, like the little whole body, front and back. And then for 119 is for the leg. All right, so let's run through this real quick. All right, so, and also on Canvas, just so you know, one of the last files in the module, it says muscles, black and white. I forget how I titled it. What I'm showing you are this is what I give to you, what I would have given to you in class. This is supplemental. Because when I go through the muscles that I'm going to go over right now with you, if you look at your pick list, I'm going to go over about 80% of them. Then there's 20% that I haven't gone over yet. The reason why is because muscles occur in layers, and the ones that are on the man statue or the ones you'd see on those are superficial. Well, you got to understand, if you peel that away, there's another layer there, another layer, kind of like layers of an onion. I can't show that on a model, so therefore we rely on diagrams to do that, okay? Now understand, just because it's on the diagram doesn't mean, just because you see it on a model doesn't mean you can't also see it on a diagram. You got to be able to see them both ways, okay? But I tried to. I didn't get them all, but I tried to, in this package that I gave you on Canvas, try to star the ones that are on the pick list so that you have an idea where they are, so try to make it easier for you. Also at the end of the handout, former student made up these mnemonics about different regions of the body, just so to help her study of like what was found in the neck, what was found in the head, just to give you localization in case you're lost or can't find something. I included that as well too, but that's just to help you out. Again, if you don't have diagrams, maybe this will help you out as well. All right, so here we go on page 116, going down from top to bottom. All right, so frontalis, this is your frontal bones, okay? So your frontalis is this muscle right here. What does it do? It raises both eyebrows, okay? That's the frontalis. Orbicularis oculi, that's the one that goes around your eye, and that's when you give a wink. Zygomaticus major. Zygomaticus major means it comes from the corner of your mouth and it goes to your zygomatic bone. When it contracts, you smile. So understand that there's a major, there's got to be a minor next to it as well too, but you can only see the major on the statue. Orbicularis ori would be your lips. I always tell everybody, you go out to a club, you got that weird guy that comes over to you and gives you the orbicularis oculi, finished by the orbicularis ori, and then you crack him in the face. All right, so depressor anguli ori. Think, depressor, down, angle, anguli ori. I depress the mouth at an angle. In the bottoms of your corners of your mouth, you have muscles that come down to your jaw, and when they contract, you frown, okay? That's not boo-boo lip. If you do boo-boo lip, that's something different. We'll talk about that later, but that's another one right here. That's the depressor labii inferiori. So when you frown, that's going to be the the depressor anguli ori. Temporalis goes over your temporal bone, which, sorry for the hat head, that's this right here. And then you have occipitalis, which is all the way in the back. All right, so coming on down off the head, going down to your neck. Sternocleidoid mastoid. Sternum, clavicle, mastoid process. So sternum, clavicle, mastoid process. Take your head, tilt it all the way to one side, and this muscle pops up. Sternocleidoid mastoid. Sternocleidoid mastoid. Scalenes. Scalenes are difficult to see. They're very uncomfortable to push too. Take your head, tilt it all the way to the side. You'll feel your sternocleidoid mastoid. But if you feel, when you come down on this, there's this little indent right there. If you push on it hard, you're going to feel really uncomfortable. It's actually a pressure point. And that's the scalenes. So if you want to feel it on yourself, turn your head all the way and you'll feel your sternocleidoid pop up. And then next to it, you'll feel this little indent right about there. and you push on it, it feels like it just feels uncomfortable. I don't recommend you doing it. Levator scapulae. I always love asking people, do you know what your levator scapulae is? And they go, I don't know. You just did it, dummy. That's why. Because your levator scapulae levitates your scapula. Comes from the bottom of your head down to your scapula, and then you shrug your shoulders. Okay, trapezius, big muscle. Starts here at the base of your neck, goes out to your shoulders, and comes down to a point right about there on your back. So it kind of almost looks like a big, huge muscle. It's like a kite almost on your back. People always go, oh, this right here, this is your trapezius. Yeah, that's the top part of it, but it goes all the way down your back. Let's see. Infraspinatus. Infraspinatus means below the spine, specifically of the scapula. So you got to find the spine of the scapula and then go right below it. Okay? That would be, here's the spine of your scapula. You feel it, it's bony, and it's right below it. Okay. Latissimus dorsi. Big muscle. Big sheet of muscle starts here at a broad origin, and it comes up to a point underneath your back. Basically, it hugs your entire back. If you've ever seen bodybuilding competitions, and you have the bodybuilder do one of these shots, and it looks like their back almost has wings coming off the back of it, that's the latissimus dorsi. Gluteus maximus, that's your backside. Medius is above it. Deltoid is your shoulder. Serratus anterior. Think like when you have a bodybuilder and they do like kind of like the javelin pose or the muscle pose, and it looks like ribs underneath it. Those aren't ribs. That's the serratus anterior. Okay. Pectoralis major, you already know. 421, where it says external oblique, fix it. It's external abdominal oblique. That's these muscles right here, which you would call your love handles. Okay. So again, on the diagram, the muscle you see is the external abdominal oblique. If I were to rip that out, another series of muscles goes the other way, making an X. That's the internal abdominal obliques. If I rip that out, another series of muscles comes in called the not rectus abdominis. It's the I'll come back to that one. It's not part of this lecture anyway, and I just had a brain fart on that one. But it's the third one that comes in. Oh, it's the abdominis transversus. There we go. All right, so, those three make up your love handles. But the one you have to know on the statue is the external abdominal oblique. Rectus abdominis is the six-pack. Triceps brachii is the back of your arm. Biceps brachii, the front of your arm. Extensor carpi radialis longus. If you look at the name, I extend the wrist at the radius and I'm long. Your extensors are here. Your flexors are here. So these are all extensors. So your radius, if you remember, is here. So that means that these muscles have to be right here, going towards your thumb. So they're going to extend your wrist, going towards your radius. All right. Extensor digitorum. This one. If you take your hand, hold your fingers right here and tilt your hand away from it, you'll feel it get really hard right there. Those are your extensor digitorum. Extend your fingers away from your face. Okay. Brachioradialis means it goes from the brachia, the upper arm, to the radius. So if you look at my arm, that little bump right there, from the brachia to the radius. That's the brachioradialis. Sartorius. Now we're coming down to the leg. Sartorius, longest muscle in your body. Starts here, runs all the way down your leg, goes down to the inner part of your knee. That's the one I said that the cells are 30 centimeters long. Rectus femoris, we already said that's the meaty part of your calf. Pectineus is one of what's called your adductor muscles. Adductor muscles means that when you take your leg out, you got to bring it back in. What brings it back in are adductor muscles. The pectineus is the smallest muscle all the way up in your groin. It's a little tiny muscle all the way up, and it helps to pull your leg in. Let's see. Gracilis is a strap-like muscle that goes from the middle of your groin straight down to the inner part of your thigh. When people say, oh, I pulled my groin, they pulled their gracilis. Okay, it looks like gracilis, but it's like gracilis. If you've ever ran track or did competitions or soccer, you do the butterfly stretch where you sit down and you push your knees down. What you're stretching out is your gracilis. Okay, adductor longus is, so the pectineus is here, Gracilis is here. Adductor longus is right there. The pectineus and the adductor longus both act to pull your leg in. Okay, now, if you would, bracket off 36, 37, and 38. Those are what we call your hamstrings, okay? So, back of your leg, going toward the lateral side. You have your biceps femoris. You have your biceps femoris out here. Where your leg bulges out, that's where you have the semitendinosus. Why? Because the semimembranosus is underneath it. These three right here are what you call hamstrings. So again, biceps femoris are lateral. Coming toward the middle where you feel your leg bulge out, that is the semitendinosus, because underneath it is the semimembranosus. All right. Let's see. Gastrocnemius, that's your calf. Underneath your calf is a flat muscle called the soleus. Soleus, think of it like this. You go to Disney and it says 45 minutes from this point. You go, but 45 minutes from this point, you're talking to somebody. You'll do it unconsciously. As you're talking to them, you'll eventually start to sway back and forth. You'll rock. What you're doing is you're relaxing the soleus muscle. It's one of your posture muscles. If that muscle actually tires and fatigues, you come down like a house of cards. The calcaneal tendon is the tendon that connects it to the back of your heel, the calcaneus. Extensor digitorum longus. People screw this up. This is the extensor digitorum. If I say extensor digitorum longus, that is the muscle that runs down your shin, down to your toes. It extends for your toes. So when you see the word longus, it's going towards your toes. Tibialis anterior means it goes in front of your tibia. That is your shin bone, and it goes in front of the shin bone. Last but not least, you see fibularis longus. Your fibula is on the lateral side, so it runs down the outside of your leg. Fibularis longus. On your pick list, it'll also say peroneus. Peroneus is more of the archaic way to say fibularis. They're interchangeable. That's for the Mr. Man statue. All right, so if we flip now to page 119. A lot of these we already went over because you can see the same things on the man. Now, 1 and 2 I can't show you because I have to rip my leg off, okay? So, if you picture somebody's leg, you'd have the hip on the inside with all that meat on the inside. That's a muscle called the iliacus. From the base of your spine, where you'd have your sacrum, there are muscles coming over to hold your leg in place. That's called the psoas major. If you take the two together, the inside part of your hip, the iliacus, with the psoas major, that's called the iliopsoas. Let's see, gluteus maximus we went over, medius we went over. Tensor fascia lati. As I mentioned, running on the outside of your thigh, you have a piece of connective tissue. So when you do a squat and come back up, you don't blow out your quadriceps. There's a little tiny muscle that pulls on this fascia, so that when you go up and down, it actually tightens so you don't blow your leg out. So it's a little tiny muscle that actually is holding the fascia in place. Let's see, sartorius was the long one. Quadriceps, as I said, that's your thigh. You got the rectus femoris. Toward the inside, you have the vastus medialis. To the outside, the vastus lateralis. If I ripped your thigh out, underneath it, you'd have the vastus intermedius. Pectineus we went over. That's the one that was up here. Adductor longus is below it. Adductor magnus is underneath all of it. It's the biggest one, but it's covered up by most of their muscles. Gracilis is what you would call your groin. Semitendinosus, membranosus, and biceps femoris, we already said, are your hamstrings. Tibialis anterior is in front of your leg. Extensor hallucis longus means it's going to go down to your great toe and pull it up. Digitorum longus, we already went over. Fibularis longus, we said, runs down your outside of your leg. Longus is on the outside, the brevis, the shorter one's on the inside of it. Gastrocnemius is your calf, soleus and calcaneal tendon we already went over. All right, so last but not least, 123, the arm. Now, for this one, again, a lot of these I can't show you. I got to rip my arm off. It ain't going to happen. So, when you see number 1 and 2, and you see spinatus, that means the spine of the scapula. Okay, so find the spine of your scapula. Supraspinatus is above. Infraspinatus is below. Then you're going to have 2 corded muscles underneath here. One is going to be big, one is going to be small. Teres major, teres minor. Latissimus dorsi is that big sheet of muscle that comes up underneath your armpit. Subscapularis means this. imagine you could see right through my shoulder right now, and you would see the inside of my scapula. There's meat on the inside of my scapula. Subscapularis means the muscle underneath the scapula, but you have to see, you have to be able to look through my shoulder to see it. All right, deltoid is your shoulder, pectoralis major. All right, so biceps brachii, brachialis, triceps brachii. All right, so now we come down to the forearm. Now, this is what screws people up all the time. Best thing to do, find a pattern, memorize it, and don't change it, okay? So, have the arm supine. My landmark is always this. There's a muscle that comes from this part of your elbow, goes all the way to your radius. That is called the pronator teres. Its job is when it pulls, it flips your arm over. It makes your hand prone. But it's a corded cylinder. That's why it's called teres. That's the teres. That's the pronator teres. Okay? Now, these next three right here, these are all going to be flexors because they bring your hand up. Well, I'm going to have one that goes to my radius, one that goes to my ulna, and one that goes to my palm. So the one that's over here, that's going to be called my flexor carpi radialis. The one that goes to my palm is called the palmaris longus. The one that goes to my ulna is called the flexor carpi ulnaris. Those three are right here. So this is to the radialis, palmaris longus, and then to the ulnaris. Now, this is where it gets tricky, because once I turn the arm, the flexor is here. Once I start over here, these are now extensors. Remember, flexors do this, extensors do that. All right, so extensors are here. So right next to it, you would have your flexor carpi ulnaris. Right next to it is your extensor carpi ulnaris. They're side by side. When I come to the middle, you already know that one, extensor digitorum. And then if I come around your arm, I have two muscles that come down right here to my radius. So you have two extensor carpi radiali. One is long, one is short, longus and brevis. And then we come back to the pronator teres. We come back to the brachioradialis, this bump. So your other two extensors are here. Your brachioradialis is here. Your brachioradialis is here, and then you have your pronator teres back to square one again. Basically, look at the arm, and you go around in one big circle. However you go, clockwise or counterclockwise, I don't care. Memorize it, stick to it. Find a landmark, and go around, okay? What I just did there is I ran you from 12 all the way down through 20. 22, 23, where it says extensor pollicus brevis, that's down here because it goes to your thumb. Abductor pollicus longus is right next to it. And the flexor digitorum, if you remember, if the extensor digitorum is here, the flexor digitorum has to be here. The thing about it is, if you take out the palmaris longus, if you rip that out, underneath it would be the flexor digitorum. But there's two flexor digitorums. There's one that's superficial, superficialis. The one underneath it, deeper, is the flexor digitorum profundus. Profundus means deeper. That's what we got to know. What you got to know for the models, for the man, the arm, and the leg. Granted, I'm not the models, but I hopefully give you an orientation of where to help to look for it. All right. Next time, I'll be talking about the anatomy of the skeletal muscle, as well as why the skeletal muscle is light, dark. And then after that, then is the big lecture, which is on how the muscle contracts. All right. See you next time.